Is there any specific topic on designing AI that you want to talk about more?
Andrew, do you have any preference?
Let me think. I think you could talk about basically what's happening now with the kind of AI landscape, right? And I think it'd be kind of good to talk how AI is enabling more and more people to like design and even like do things in general. And I don't think it's just design; it's like coding and like how teams and individuals are able to kind of do multiple roles with AI, like product managers building stuff. And yeah, maybe that's going to be the topic.
Sounds great. I was also wondering about one thing in terms of AI. Do you think it will be, not right now, but in the next coming years, do you think it will be mainly used for more pattern-related stuff, or do you think it will be used to create literally how you do right now with Figma, in the sense that AI is very good at recognizing patterns and trying to replicate and automate tasks which are menial, but do you think we will get to the point where you can actually use it to build something creative, like something completely new from scratch?
I can start. Is it just for him?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting question, and it requires a complex answer. But I feel that indeed, as we know it today, like nobody knows what's going to be happening with this technology in 10 years from now. But as we see it, it's very good at pattern recognition and replicating what it knows. So it's stereotypical in one way. So even if you put in, like, you raise the temperature of a weirdness or whatever, like if you bake creativity in it, it's still not going to be very creative because it draws its outputs from something that's already been it has been trained on. So I don't think that it's gonna necessarily replace this area of our roles or the world, especially for artists. I think designers don't really need to be very creative most of the time. We operate under a lot of constraints, design systems, brand guidelines, and so on. So we're not necessarily the most creative discipline right there. But I think artists and people who are actually creating something from their heart, mind, trauma, whatever, they're gonna be very hard to replace or replicate or be even challenged, if you want, by AI. Because now, and this is I'm gonna shut up and give you the stage. But now we've seen that Meta has launched this Vibes feed where it's just posting AI-generated content. And I think it's the most interesting experiment we're all gonna be part of. I really wonder, and I have no idea, but I wonder if people will just go in there to consume something that they know genuinely, like they already know it's generated by AI, so it doesn't have that human suffering element or human, like the interesting things that we want to know about other people, which I think should be at the core ethos of social media, right? What are people thinking, feeling, doing? So I'm wondering if anyone will use it. That's when we'll know if there is an appetite or an openness towards replacing creation with AI. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this kind of can have like multiple angles, right? And I kind of feel like that, like AI won't and can't replace human creativity, but I think it kind of gives more people like the tools, because I kind of ultimately AI is a tool, right? And like in past we have like new tools like software and like SaaS software and everything, and I think this is just kind of new wave of tools that make us more kind of creative, enables more people to do things. And like ultimately what I'm seeing, for example, in our teams, we have let's say a bunch of 3D designers in the team in Prague, and what really kind of AI like kickstarted is that it enables just people to do more without, and things that would be like very hard to do like before. So if you kind of combine the kind of creative like thinking and mindset with AI that empowers you to do more crazy stuff, like you can control like 3D software with LLMs, for example. And the results are amazing. So I think it will actually like amplify the creativity.
Yeah, we have a question from the audience.
You're going to have to repeat the question probably so that
Yeah, yeah.
but we're looking now at, we've seen the age of UX, right, which AI coming on board, we now have agents. And we started talking about agent experience and how are we bringing the human into the agent experience. So the question is, how do you see that evolving and what's going to be the role of the UX engineers, the UX designers in this whole space?
So to the audience who maybe hasn't heard the question is that the UX space has now evolved into having a new layer of experiences, which are agentic experiences, and these kind of bring new challenges for designers to consider, navigate, and bake in their decisions. So what are those challenges, and how is agentic experience transforming our workspace? Not physical workspace, but work problem space, if you want. So it's a very, again, I mean, all questions relating to AI are complex right now because we don't have enough clarity to answer, to really know what's going on. Agents obviously require a very fine line you need to navigate as a designer, because on one hand you want them to feel autonomous, you want them to feel like they have agency, they deliver on the promise of executing, like manifesting your intent into something actionable and then really doing it, and so it's independent. It doesn't need your hand holding all the time, because otherwise you would do it yourself. So they have to deliver on that promise, but then at the same time you need a lot of control, because they can go crazy and do things that you need to totally. So I think this is the main challenge when we're designing agentic experiences, balancing control with the freedom that the machine has. And in practice, I think it manifests in, like we've always been talking, also in the RPA space. I come from UiPath with part of my background. We were talking about human in the loop. It was just like, the computer does things, but then the human is occasionally brought in, making sure that everything is on track, and then left to be creative or whatever. But I feel that with agents, sometimes they do things in the background. Sometimes they do things that you're not even aware of. So how do you make them transparent? And I don't have all the answers to this. I don't know if Andrew has more clarity on how to actually design for agents. But it's definitely a place of, the main challenge is this idea of freedom, control, and checkpoints where the agent has less confidence. Like, I think they need to have this intelligence, this confidence intelligence metric baked in, where it has to understand, okay, I'm not sure this is the right thing. We've seen it on, we've seen this kind of example reasoning with LLMs. Some of the smarter models have this kind of transparent breakdown of what they're doing, how they're thinking. It's even using the word thinking, which is pretty misleading, right? Is it really thinking? Because it sounds human. We use these human words associated to machines, so now we're, it's a fuzzy boundary. But it explains, like, there's this aspect of demonstrated thinking. How do you bring that to agents, the demonstrated thinking, the demonstrated plan before, and keep you in control? And I think, it's a visibility problem. I'm going to shut up.
Yeah, but I pretty much agree. And I think that this is something our industry needs to figure out in the coming years. And I don't think anyone has answers. Because the thing with AI functionality in general is that it's not deterministic. You always get slightly different results, and you need to design for that, right? And I think that basically going forward, we will see that AI will just kickstart all of these workflows, but at the same time, people will always want to own the kind of final level of fine-tuning and customization, and we'll need UI for that. At least in design fields, right? I don't think we will be in a stage where just AI is creating our designs without the human in the loop, and we'll always need this kind of fine layer of customization and polish for humans. And it will inevitably change how kind of user interfaces looks like, where I think we'll go from individual features to more workflows. This is some sort of direction we are heading at Canva. But yeah, overall, I think that we are in this kind of massive paradigm shift, and we just need to figure out. It's our job.
I want to add something to your point, build on top of it. So in conventional design, I also mentioned it in my talk, in conventional design we have this, let's say, predictable flow that's in control because we design it and we test for it to be correct. But with agents, we're building protocols, and that's also like a constant conversation from designers and product builders to understand how to optimize that protocol, where it's failing. And so it's similar to the concept of a workflow, which is what the user gets, but in the back kitchen where we're doing the thing. It's just defining good protocols for agents to operate within boundaries that are safe and well defined. So we're figuring out everything as an industry. It's a really interesting moment, and it's a really interesting question. Thank you. And we are open to other questions from the audience. If anyone has one, maybe you can start thinking about it. You have another one? Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Do you feel like now your scope is broader? Before you basically either design for the screen and rarely for voice. But now it feels like with AI, we're bringing all the patterns of interacting with technology, which is like you bring in Neuralink, you bring in tactic feeling and so on. Do you feel like it becomes harder and harder to create like a meaningful experience?
So the question is if the surface of design is, the different surfaces are expanding now. So it's not just a screen where you have a UI experience, but you also have my Aura ring that has sensing capabilities and other kinds of types, like paradigms for design and interacting with these with systems. And you haven't been to my talk because if you were, you were stuck here. Well, if you were in there, I mentioned exactly this kind of delimitation of, not delimitation, but we're seeing new categories of design paradigms emerge, and one of them is clearly conversational, and it's dominating a lot of the ways and products that have a way to interact with machines and AI. Build that through conversation and natural language, and we just say things or write things, and then the computer responds in the same language. There's also like the agentic experiences that are user-facing, because not all of them, some of them are just back-end stuff. But the ones that are user-facing also use natural language. So in that they're similar, but now they have this right to perform tasks as an add-on. And ambient, I call them ambient and contextual interfaces, are the ones that have sensing capabilities, and they're like gathering intelligence or interacting with you through a different model than the screen. And so we definitely have new paradigms. I think each of them requires a different design mindset when you're designing and a different way to test, learn, and so I think we're gonna have the specialized design roles of the future will be around these kinds of, so conversational designer, model designer, ambient designer, or stuff like that. So I think we will need to really dive deep into figuring out all these new paradigms, because they're blooming and they're intersecting more and more, so they're intertwined. We're gonna live in a different world as designers, and it's already happening, but it's gonna be more visible or easier to grasp, define, pinpoint in a couple of years.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think it's nothing really new. I think in the past we went from like designing to just computer screens to designing like for mobile phone first. And I think this is kind of similar shift. Just what is different is that it's happening way faster now.
Yeah, and I think most of those tools, what I would use them, so comparing what I did at Oracle with design systems, doing everything from scratch in Figma, the way I try to use all of those new vibe coding, vibe design tools, however you want to call them, is that they enable me to work much faster, but they only do that because I've been building those things from scratch in the past, and I know how to build a flow, basically how to guide the LLM to try to tell it, okay, from this screen you were supposed to create something with an interface and a button should be here and so on. So the more you guide it as a pro user, sort of say, not a regular consumer, I think that's the only way to work right now. And I agree with what you were saying as well, that depending on what you do, whether you are designing for conversion or for retention or for something completely new, the roles are going to be definitely very, very, very different.
And I have something to add to what you just said. I feel one of the most interesting or dangerous or challenging questions we now have to face is we are a generation that was trained in conventional systems. Like we have knowledge. AI came in our lives when we already knew product, knew design, knew how to build systems. We know what to ask. We know how to envision whatever outcome or output or what we wanted to create, and we can articulate it many times. And even if we can't, we can understand how to figure out how to articulate it. So we have the knowledge, we have the expertise. And I think what's really interesting and what should be a problem in tech right now is, what do you do when the new generations of people who don't have this experience, don't like, they're brought, like you're a junior and you want the system to generate UI. How do you even start? Like, you don't know what to ask it. You don't know, maybe you don't have the concept of rounded corners or whatever, right? And same for product managers, same for engineers. So what happens when we're gonna go out of the zone of expertise that our generation is in and enter an area where they're learning completely new things and they're not being taught how to articulate, envision, right? Like, it's a very tricky question.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of what's exciting, right? Like I what you're saying with like building prototypes and stuff, and I really think that the huge power of AI is it basically enables people who have some sort of domain knowledge to take it way farther. Like designers building like prototypes in a day instead of like waiting for engineers to find time and things like that. And I think this is what is really powerful with AI. I don't think that like AI will be kind of wiping up like jobs, but it will expand like scope for many roles in the future. But then I think that like fundamentals will be critical in every field. Like, so if you are an engineer, it's and if you work with more complex systems, you need the core understanding of like computer science fundamentals. You need like algorithms and stuff. And I think same goes for design. You can generate code, but if you are not understanding like the architecture and the patterns and like data structures, the code will be pretty bad and will eventually run into like the limits. And it's okay for like small projects, but then I think that with AI, products are just getting more and more complex. So I think that like going forward, like focusing on these fundamentals in every field will be critical.
I don't have much to add to that.
Me neither, yeah.
I agree. Like, but there's always this question: is it still worth to learn how to code? And I think the answer is absolutely. Yeah. Like, it builds critical thinking and it gives you the capacity to discern when AI does something, if it's good, bad, what, and how to continue from there. So, yeah, people should still learn how to design, how to code, and so on. So, learn the fundamentals. We're done?